Bloomberg did an EV trip across China. What do you get out of that journey?
Well, the reason we did it is because when we were looking at the recovery from COVID, we were talking to people going back to China for the first time since the pandemic. One of the most consistent observations was the surge in EVs over the past 3 years, how frequent they had become in terms of sightings, how you could see the batteries being changed on the streets in China, and what that might be doing for oil. But we couldn't really gauge from the ground what that might look like outside the big cities, outside Shanghai, outside Beijing. And so this road trip was really about understanding the extent to which the EV boom is gaining traction outside the metropolis, far away from the coast and into some of the more sparsely populated rural parts of China, and look at the infrastructure, talking to consumers. And what we found is really that, many, many times analysts have called the peak of oil in China, peak oil demand, and many times they've been wrong. But what we have found is really that it may be much, much closer than we have thought in the past.
Well, a lot of mixed opinions around whether that is actually going to kind of continue the current trends that we are seeing. A lot of the words peak oil keeps coming up. Is that fair to say that peak oil is and has already been achieved? What do you think?
It's pretty hard to say. If you look back to 2017, even with this sort of enormous boom in EVs, remember China has sold more EVs than any other country in the world, about half of the world's total. By 2026, it'll be half of the new additions to the fleet. But every time we've been wrong, every time the peak is pushed higher, the peak is pushed along. What we have seen and what was really significant to us was the extent to which consumers saw economic benefits, and they also saw preferences around style and design. So there was really a consumer preference for EVs in a way that perhaps isn't really seen to the same extent outside China. That really is accelerating the adoption, accelerating the turnover in the fleet. And so, yes, as a result of that, we do see a significant change. However, of course, there's a very big fleet in China. We will still see 11 million gasoline cars added to the fleet this year, and it does take a long time to turn that over. So even if we see a peak, perhaps it will take some time for that decline to happen.